You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere. This is your WXCO Daily News Roundup for Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 FM and 1230 AM in Wausau.
For WXCO News, I'm Brittany Merlot. Appeals Court Judge Chris Taylor announced her run for the Wisconsin Supreme Court on Tuesday. Lisa Hale tells us more.
Taylor has served as a judge in Dane County and represented Madison in the state assembly. She told Civic Media's Maggie Dawn Show Tuesday that having been a legislator makes her a better judge.
I understand the legislative process. A lot about what judges do is interpret the law. We have to know legislative intent. We have to look at statutes very closely. So I really think it makes me a unique candidate in that way. I have looked at the law from so many different angles.
Justice Rebecca Bradley's term is up next year. She has already announced that she will seek re-election. If Bradley wins, the court's liberal majority will remain at 4-3. If Taylor wins, the majority would increase to 5-2.
And the next generation of people making sure that we stay on the air are being trained. Stuart J. Waddles has the details.
Starting next fall, UW-Oshkosh will offer a specialized track in broadcast engineering, the first of its kind in Wisconsin. A statement says the new emphasis was designed with input from industry leaders. A partnership with Madison College will allow students to enter the workforce after 2 years or transfer to complete their bachelor's degree. Thanks in advance to the graduates.
And the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection is set to begin mandatory milk testing in an effort to identify bird flu in cattle. The new National Milk Testing Strategy is mandated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. Wisconsin dairy farmers are required to supply one milk sample monthly to the Wisconsin Veterinary Diagnostic Lab for testing. The goal is to identify any spread of the highly contagious disease and respond as quickly as possible to address it. Advocates for people with disabilities have concerns about changes to Medicaid. Joanne Krulotz has the story.
House Republicans late Sunday voted to advance the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which would extend President Trump's tax cuts while reforming Medicaid. Beth Swedeen, with the Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities, says many optional Medicaid programs could be eliminated. Swedeen said such programs are the ones that are the most cost-effective because they keep people out of costly facilities and keep them healthy and safe at home. That's not the way Republicans are pitching the bill. Swedeen notes that it's been sold as something to get able-bodied people who should be working into work, but less than 8% of the Medicaid population is people who aren't working and also don't have a disability or aren't a kid. Republicans on the House Budget Committee advanced the Big Beautiful Bill in an unusual late-night vote Sunday, despite opposition from conservatives who contend the cost-cutting measure in the bill did not go far enough.
And as tornadoes popped up from Kansas to Kentucky, a depleted National Weather Service was in scramble mode. The weather office in Jackson, Kentucky, where deadly storms hit, has been closing nightly due to lack of staffing in the wake of the government cuts. But the agency had staffers working on overtime Friday night to stay on top of those deadly storms. And the U.S. is on track to have its second busiest tornado year ever. And some former Weather Service veterans worry that overworked meteorologists and violent weather are a dangerous combination. And the Wisconsin State Patrol has increased enforcement on the roadways as they attempt to ensure residents are traveling safely around Memorial Day. The State Patrol and law enforcement agencies across the country officially began their Click It or Ticket seatbelt safety campaign on Monday. Senator Tammy Baldwin is leading a group of Democratic senators urging the president to close the so-called carried interest loophole. Stuart J. Waddles tells us more.
According to a letter obtained by USA Today, Baldwin and her colleagues point out that Trump had previously called the loophole, quote, unfair to American workers. They're asking him to follow through on his campaign promise to eliminate it.
And it was a cyber attack that caused a widespread cell outage. Lisa Hale has the details.
Cellcom CEO Brigid Riordan confirms a cyber incident caused Cellcom customers' voice and text services to be out for almost a week.
We live in a world where they are working on how to do damage just as hard as we are working to prevent it. This is the world we live in right now. We have notified authorities. We have teams working around the clock.
Cellcom released a video and a letter from the CEO, who went on to say that no personal data was exposed in the attack. She, however, gave no timeline for full restoration of service.
You have our total commitment that we are doing everything we can, along with global experts, our partners, who have flown in from around the world to get this restored, and that's our priority.
The outage started around 9 p.m. Wednesday, May 14th. Text service and Cellcom to Cellcom voice service has been restored. 911 service was never affected by the outage.
And state lawmakers are proposing new legislation that would levy significant fines for the owners of abandoned boats on Wisconsin's shorelines. The proposed legislation would give owners 30 days to collect their boat after law enforcement authorities deemed it abandoned. If the boat isn't removed, the owners could face a $10,000 fine and up to 9 months in jail. The state Supreme Court said no to an appeal from Stephen Avery. Lisa Hale tells us more.
The Wisconsin Supreme Court denied Stephen Avery's latest request for a new trial in his conviction for the murder of Teresa Halbach in 2005. He's claimed that he should be allowed to present evidence that there is an alternate unknown suspect responsible for the murder. The 62-year-old Avery is serving a life sentence for Halbach's murder. He has maintained his innocence, but all appeals have been denied. Avery's attorney, Kathleen Zellner, posted Wednesday on social media platform X, quote, "As expected, the Wisconsin Supreme Court has denied review of Stephen's petition." Avery and his nephew, Brendan Dassey, were the subject of the Netflix series Making a Murderer in 2015, which created global attention for the case.
And Milwaukee baseball fans are in for a new at-home viewing experience. Stuart J. Waddles explains.
FanDuel Sports Network is bringing a high-tech wire cam system to American Family Field. The aerial camera captures unique angles of stadiums and is similar to the over-the-field cameras during NFL games. It'll be seen on FanDuel Brewer broadcasts through mid-June.
And a package of bills have been introduced in the Wisconsin state legislature aimed at protecting pollinators across the state. Among the introduced legislation is a proposal to designate June as Pollinator Awareness Month. One would require state agencies and government entities to give preference to native plants, and another would add more regulations for pesticides, and one would establish a Protect Pollinators license plate program. The rusty-patched bumblebee would also be named as the state native insect. I'm Brittany Merlot for WXCO.
The Crew heads to Pittsburgh. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Brewers open a 4-game series tonight at PNC Park against the Pirates. Yesterday, the Brewers went into extra innings, but lost at home to the Orioles, 8-4 after 11 innings. Manager Pat Murphy.
You get 7 hits in a game, and the opponents get 14. You usually don't win the game. The fact that we scored in the 9th and the 10th showed a little bit of character for this team, and we made some mistakes.
College football. Wisconsin announces their game next year at Lambeau Field against Notre Dame has been moved from Saturday, September 5th to Sunday, September 6th, 2026. More information to come for ticket holders. The Packers holding OTA practice sessions. Rookie receiver Matthew Golden getting a little help from the veterans.
We were out there earlier today, and I went over to tell Matthew something about one of his routes, and I was just about to start talking, and then Romeo Dobbs grabbed him. And I said, "Hey, you talking about the Dover?" He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "All right, you got him."
That's Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. The summer box office kicks into high gear this weekend with 2 huge releases squaring off for your hard-earned money. Let's start with The Granddaddy, which is the final installment of the Mission Impossible franchise, at least for now. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning continues the story from 2 years ago, where we left with a train hanging off a cliff. The film is pulling about an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes because some critics apparently don't know how to party. Not to be outdone, the live-action version of Lilo and Stitch also opens this weekend and is also anticipating massive returns at the gate. In the film, which is pulling a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, a fugitive alien helps a young Hawaiian girl heal her dysfunctional family. If you're looking for some good old-fashioned cringeworthy adult comedy, check out the film Friendship, which goes into wider release this weekend. If you're in a small town, you might have to road trip for the laughs, but it might be worth it as it's pulling a 90% on RT. Let's go to the movies. Martin Scorsese fans will have a chance to see him on the other side of the camera in a new documentary on Apple TV. Deadline reports that the famous director director will be the subject of a docuseries in 5 parts from director Rebecca Miller. Miller is the daughter of playwright Arthur Miller and married to 3-time Oscar winner Daniel Day-Lewis. In the series, Scorsese will talk about his real-life experiences and how they contributed to his masterful filmmaking. James Cameron used the old Bugs Bunny reverse psychology trick in getting Leonardo DiCaprio to sign on to Titanic, according to Deadline. When DiCaprio was considered for the part of Jack Dawson, he wanted Cameron to make the character more conflicted, similar to other roles he had played so well to that point in his career. Cameron didn't want to do that, so he presented Jack Dawson's wholesomeness as yet another challenge to DiCaprio, asking him if he thought he could pull off an unflawed character. DiCaprio took the bait, and history was made. The migration from the silver screen to Broadway continues, and Tom Hanks is the latest to journey to the stage. The role in the play, titled This World of Tomorrow, shouldn't be too difficult for the Hollywood good guy to handle. The material is based on his short stories. The show opens this coming fall in New York. Hanks joins other big screen stars who've made the jump to New York stages, including Denzel Washington, George Clooney, and Bob Odenkirk. Speaking of Denzel Washington, if you're a red carpet photographer, make sure you do not touch his arm. The 2-time Oscar winner was in Cannes promoting the film Highest to Lowest that he starred in and Spike Lee directed. Washington was making his way up the red carpet when a photographer asked if he could get a picture and actually grabbed Washington's arm. Washington got in his face and apparently was not in the mood to be touched and said, "Stop it," repeatedly. The photographer made the right decision and stopped, as opposed to messing with the equalizer. Good decision. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
It is going to be partly cloudy today with a high in the upper 50s to near 60 this afternoon. Tonight, partly cloudy. We're going to drop to the upper 30s to near 40. Tomorrow, lots of sunshine, almost just like today with a high right around 60. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 46.
That's your WXCO Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at bullfallsradio.com. The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.